points again. You had to finish them. Ah. How much each eraser costs? Good. So, oh, you did the other ones too. I'm going to give you the. It's only one question. Yep. I'm going to do them up on the board. See if I put them back up on the board. There they are again. There. Just like it should be pretty similar to the three you just did perfectly. So.
I totally lost what I was.
Well, then we'll label them now. You should still be able to label them. Doesn't matter. You should be able to look. So here's the other thing you need to know how to do. If there's already points on there, you need to be able to label them and tell me what the X and the Y of the point is. So you should be able to just look at the point. This point, you should be able to look at that point and show me what the X and the Y are. Just pick any, I don't care which graph. So yeah, if you just want to pick one graph, just put them all in that chat. I'm going to do them in a second. I'm going to let Andrew finish this. I don't know how the final test will be. It's changed throughout. Yeah, you can label on a graph. You can graph. Yeah, they've got all kind of tools in graphs where you can do all kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm not allowed to see the district. Teachers never get to see what the district creates or the state. So I have no idea what they're doing. I do know they have those tools available in the software you use, but I have no idea. Yeah, they for whatever reason, they do not let teachers see those even after you've taken it. We never get to see the result. I mean, we see a score. Actually, yeah, we see a score, but we never get to see, at least not in the past. Maybe it'll change that with the new standards. I think that's dumb because how am I supposed to know if you're talking about myself? I never get to see what you got tested on by the district and the state. How do I know if I am teaching the right stuff? I'm teaching what it says you need to know, but maybe they give you totally different. There's all kinds of types of questions. Yeah. Easy. You should be in good shape. All right, so let's go ahead and start putting them on the graph. I'm going to have to zoom out now a little bit. You just check where your point is. You should be able to figure out if it's in the same spot or not. So the first point, I'm going to do it color coordinated. So the first point, I'm going to get rid of that one. That was not over there. So if you didn't do that one, you did that one, that's fine. So 3, 1. What's the first number, the 3? Which value is that representing? X. X is always the first number. Because remember, which way do I go first to get to an elevator? Left or right is the x-axis. That's why X is the first number. Or, if you can't remember that, it's in alphabetical order. X comes before Y. X, Y, Z. So however you have to remember it, you have got to remember that X is always the first number. Whether I give you the ordered pair or whether there's a point on the graph and you're trying to figure out X and Y, X is always the first number. So if X is 3 and Y is 1, what direction do we always go first? Left or right. You can't say just right or left. It's got to be one of the two, depending on what the number is, positive or negative. So if I need to go left or right first, 3 is my first number. So I go down to 3. Then do I go up or down for the second number? In this case, up to positive 1, right? There's your point. So you should have your first point or a point there, but it should have been your first point. 3, 1. Hopefully you all have a point. What's that? If you want to just do the correct, I'd write all those points down. And that way you can practice. If you're struggling to remember this, you can then practice later with your own graph because you've got to have this down. And I don't just mean like it's got to be automatic. Like I said, every single year, people mess it up. A lot of times it's people that know what they're doing. But just you get in a hurry, you try to go too fast, and you go the wrong direction for the first number in some point. 3, 4. Again, which way do I go first? Left or right, but in this case, which way would it be? Right, because this is a positive 3. So I go right first. Then which way do I go? Up, right? Positive 4. These numbers are positive, so I go up. So let's do it in blue. So that blue point, 3, 4. Now what's next? Green. Which way do I go first? Left for this one. So we always go left or right first. The way we determine which way is it positive or negative? These were positive, so we went to the positive numbers. This is negative. Now I need to go left to the negative x values. So this is the negative x values this way. So -2, I would go left first. And then which way do I go? Up, right? -2, and then I can go up to the, what is it? Positive 4. So that would be -2, positive 4. So you should have had a point there. If the y value is the same, then the point should be at the same height, wherever that height is. Because the y determines basically the height, the x value determines how far left or right. So if it's the same x value, then they should be the same distance left or right. Let's see, what were we on? Oh, purple. 4, -2. Which one do I go first? Right? Let's do that color there. And then which way do I go for -2 for the y? That's down, right? Second number is always up or down. If it's negative, then it's down. So 4, -2, you should have had a point down here. Point down there for your, what is that, 4th point? -1, -3. Jocelyn, you tell me this one. Where do I go to get to -1, first number? So we're doing -1, -3 now. Which way do I go first? We never go down first. Remember, how did I get to the elevator? What did I have to do first when I went to see this graph? I had to go left or right. So you always go left or right first. So if that's the case, and I'm going to -1, would I go left or right? Left, correct? So then which way would I go? Med. So if I'm going to -1, -3, I went left to -1, then which way do I go for -3? Down. Down, remember, negative numbers. So that would be down here. -1, -3. Just be careful. Again, you all know this. Like if you think about it, you all know it. But there's a difference between knowing it when you only have one problem and knowing it when you got a whole quiz in front of you and you're already freaking out about the quiz. You've got to have it down where it's just automatic. Otherwise, that's when mistakes happen, is when you think you have it, but you get a quiz in front of you when you have a time limit and all of a sudden you're getting stressed out. Then it's amazing how you kind of, that's why a lot of you say, oh, I don't do very well on tests. It's because you don't practice enough. You practice until the point where you think, okay, now I got it. You need to practice beyond that point to where you could feel like you could do it in your sleep with your eyes closed. Practice way more than you think you need to practice, because that's when you can do the quizzes. If you stop right when you think you have it, then you're going to struggle on quizzes. So now let's get into the one with zeros. Those are the ones that are a little tougher. Oh, I can still use this. So I think I'm doing orange now. Who am I going to call? Call for this one. I'm going to call now Kobe. I'm sorry, I always want to call you Kobe. So where is the 0,2? Explain where I would go to get the 0,2. What about left and right? I don't go left or right at all. If the first number is 0, then I don't go left or right. It's 0. The first number represents how far left or right I need to go. I don't go anywhere, so I just go straight up to 2. So this one here is the 0, 2. That actually shows up better than I thought. What about, who have I not called on? Oh, no, I haven't. Carson, what do I need to do for 2, 0? Or, right, 2, and then where? And you're done, right? There's a 0 for the up or down number, so we don't go up or down. If there's a 0 there, you just don't do anything. Don't skip over it, because a lot of times for this one, people will think, oh, well, I'll just skip 0 and I'll go right to. You don't skip it, you use it, but if it's a 0, you just don't go anywhere. Then you go to the next number and go up or down. So 2, 0. Oh, I didn't do that. We'll make that gray. Hopefully that'll show up. So 2, 0, I go right to the 2. Shows up okay, I think. Oh, I didn't even label it. So that's 2. You may not be able to see that, but you know it's 2, 0. All right, so again, that's right now. I think most of you think, oh, I got this. Guarantee you, if we do this, then we will do it again. When I put this up for bell work, a lot of you are going to miss a bunch of them. Not all of you, but a lot of you, because it's until it's just like an automatic thing, you got to keep practicing. Now, I would write these points on the next graph. Look at where they're at, put them on your graph. Now label or out to the side. Tell me what I would just label them on the graph. What's the X and the Y for you? So you're doing the opposite thing. Still the same concept, still left or right first, then up or down. And then depending on which direction you're going, you got to make sure you use either the negative or the positive version of the number. Basically, it's just whatever number is aligned with that. So go ahead, do those 4 points. Can't see them. There's one down here also. So write the X and the Y. Just write it. I would just write it where the point is on the graph. That way, even if you put the point in the wrong spot when you're first putting the point on there, you can still get it correct. Do this for me real quick. You're really well on this today, so I want to make sure you keep up. As soon as you get it done, let me know. I'll look at it real quick. Done? All right, I'm gonna go. How many of you remembered this already from last year? Good. Yeah, you do this all the time. Whenever you first started doing graphing, and then every year they'll add a little, like we're gonna add a little more to it this year than what you would have done in pre-algebra. So we'll take it to a little bit. A lot of it though is repeat of algebra. It's a little bit simpler. All right, I'm gonna go over to. I'm just writing the numbers up. So I'll start with the blue one. You can check it when you come back up. I'll leave it up. Trade your phone out, please. So what do I do first to get my X value? What do I have to think? It might have been an accident, but now you're getting called on. It's still the same concept. What am I thinking for the first number? What do I do first to get in this graph when I look at this curve? Left or right, which in this first case is left, right? So if I start here and I'm trying to get to her room, basically her apartment, left first, which means my first number is -2. And then what's my second number? +2, right? Then I go up to +2. This is the origin. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't really. I mean, I kind of did go over it over there. The origin, where the x-axis and the y-axis cross. The origin. That's what this point is called, where they cross. That's 0, 0. That's gonna come into play a lot of times. Also, I didn't give you that point, but for some reason. That one doesn't always stick from past years, or at least the name doesn't stick. And sometimes, especially in the book materials, they'll just say origin. They won't tell you 0, 0. So you have to understand if they say origin, So this is the word I'm saying. Write that down. Origin is that point 0, 0. It's where the x-axis and the y-axis cross. So the x value is 0, right? If I'm going back and forth on the x-axis, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why the x value is 0. Same way for the y, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2, -3. So you do need to know that because they won't specifically say 0, 0. They'll just say the origin. You have to know that both the x and the y are 0. All right, what about the green one? I'm going to call on Emmanuel. I haven't called on Emmanuel. What's the green? What's the green dot, the x and the y? Perfect. So again, always left or right. Doesn't matter whether I'm putting a point on a graph or trying to figure out what the ordered pair is for a point already on there. Left and right, well, left to -3, down to -1. So then that's my point. Charles, I'll let you do purple. All the way out there. So I go left or right first. Actually, right. Yeah, left or right first, and in this case, it's right. I mean, you're just going to the point. Like, I mean, obviously, we'd have to go right because that's where the point is. Just make sure you're matching up the correct number with the point. Well, that's a 4. Matches up because it's right on top of it. And then I don't go up or down, so the second number is a 0. And last but certainly not least. Oh, I can call it a Delia. What is the last one? What is this point there, Delia? Do I go left or right at all? Do I need to go left or right? We're doing this one right here now. Do I need to go left? Do I need to go left or right? I don't, right? So that's a 0. So the first number is a 0 because I don't need to go left or right. So what's the second number? -2. Perfect. All right. Now I don't remember. I already have quizzes and stuff made up from past years. I don't remember how easy or difficult I make it. There might be no. I don't think there's a section where you put points on graph. I think we start with slope and y-intercept. But you have to know how to do that in order to do anything with the graphing part. If you're putting points in the wrong spot, there's no way to get a correct answer. And there's no way for me to give partial credit if you really, on a graph, you start in the wrong spot. Any questions? We seem like we're in pretty good shape on that, I hope. All right, so let's go ahead and move into the actual. That was one I gave. That's pre-algebra there. Oh, no, we're not doing that yet. Ow, that hurt. Might not even be in the right. Oops. Oh, that's a game. You want to play a game or do you want to learn math? It is math. I mean, it's plotting points. Battleship. Has anybody ever played Battleship where you sink the battleship? All that is the x and the y axis with points basically. I don't. We'll do it another day. I don't think I have the stuff ready to do it. We'll do that for at least 20 minutes. So basically, your battleship, you're just going to put points on the graph. Like I drew points on the graph to represent a battleship that is 4 points long. I drew this one 5 points long, so that'd be the biggest ship. Smallest ship would be 2 points. Then the next smallest ship would be 3. And then you call out the x and the y. And then if the x and the y is on one of these points, it's a hit. If the x and y is somewhere else, it's a miss. We go into the same. We'll do that another day. Like, yeah, that like. Well, yeah, you play. Well, I actually do it in 3s normally. There's 2 people that play each other, but there's a third person that has like a copy of both graphs, so that if somebody makes a mistake, well, I don't think they cheat, but like something like mistakenly say no when they should have said yes, that person can say, no, wait a minute, that was a hit, because the point they just called is on your, like you give them a copy of where your ships are. So they have a copy of both person's ships and they can tell whether or not it's a hit. We'll do that another day. That is, some people get pretty into that sometimes. It's a much more fun way to do graphing than certainly some of this stuff. Shoot, is the slope? I may not have slope in this one. Let me open my other, yeah, all right. What was that? Raise your hand just to kind of get a gauge of where we're at. Raise your hand if you remember what slope is, or at least you heard the word slope. I think Colin's looking it up on his phone. Right? Bad word? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? They used a bad word.
It's,
Oh,
it's a, that's what you called it, I just can't remember what it was. Undefined, yeah.
I thought you were talking like a four-letter word, kind of bad word. I thought it was in that, but apparently not. So let's.
Yeah, there was.
So what is? I still don't really understand what it's about.
Like, it's this, guy on a middle thing, and then it goes up a hill, so 9, positive, he goes down 9, is negative, and then he says no, with the bad word.
I've never heard. I've heard of. Have you ever heard of slope man? Did any teacher ever teach you slope man? Yeah, I've never ever taught it. Somebody showed it to me one time. I don't. Again, it's really more of a middle school thing that you would teach to middle school kids, but you can look it up at some point if you're struggling. It's called slope. I think he's called slope man. SLOPE, and then man, and it's just a drawing of a guy. Where in the world is all my? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Perfect. Slope. Yeah, slope man is like this drawing of this guy. One eye is like positive, one eye is negative. His nose is something, his mouth is something. His mouth is straight across, I think. I've never used it. I don't really remember what it is. Oh man, there's nothing in that. It's worthless. Slope man. Shoot. Oh. See if this is it. I'll have to find the other one that we'll make do today. Oh, shoot, we need to look at the book pages. Crap. Forgot about that. All right, so look at your book page 65. I really know why they're folding stuff. So, they start right into functions. Are you serious? Wow. That seems like they're skipping a lot of stuff that you need to know. It's 2-2. Wow. This book is totally different than last book. We're gonna actually turn to page God, they don't do anything that's really simple in here unless it's farther back. They start with functions. Oh, wow. We may be figuring out different pages anymore, right? That I'm not totally changed the way I've always taught this. Wow. Man, they don't even do. Oh God, they don't get to this until 3-3. Wow. All right, so I got to change it up a little bit then, I guess. Okay, tell you what, just take notes today. I'll figure out if we're gonna, because you're still gonna need to know all this stuff eventually. When you have an equation, and remember when we did two-step equations, they all were kind of looking pretty similar. They looked something like maybe this. Maybe it was this, and we said solve for a variable. Or maybe it was reversed in order, and it was 5 subtract 2x equals some number over here. The key was there was always a term with a variable. So the 2x, negative 2x or the 3x. Didn't really matter where it was. Could have been on the left or the right, the first one or the second one. Then there was one that was just a number with it. Then there was a number on the other side. Those two-step equations, it's not in the pages, right? Those the pages we tore out, they jump way ahead. I thought they were going to go in the same order I've always gone, but they jump way ahead to stuff we didn't do until much later in the semester last year. So I either will tear out more pages or I'll go backwards and we'll learn this stuff, but I feel like that stuff's a lot more advanced than this graphing stuff. So anyway, in these particular problems, you have got to be able to pick out two things. Can't pick these out, you won't be able to pass graphing. Can pick them out, then you probably can pass it just understanding these two things. You've got to understand, so write down this equation. Y equals mx plus b. Write it pretty big because you're going to take notes around it. So give yourself, I'd say write it where you have room around it for half a page of notes. Like so, I'll explain. So like you could write it right in the middle here, and you're going to take notes around it, or you could, if you've already written at the top, write it here, and then you can write around it like that. We're going to take some notes around it. If they're not in this particular lesson slide show thing. Let's write them back up. So that's what you're writing around it first. So what you need to write, so first write this. Slope, also rate of change, then write Y-intercept. But I'm going to give you some more stuff to take notes on around that. Because it's not always going to give you the equation in this format. So your topic here is linear equation. So it says graphing linear equation. I guess we'll have to do functions first. I'll ask the other 1A teacher what are they doing. You're done, kind of put your pencil down. So I'm done. Really only writing two more things, so we shouldn't take too long. Like most everybody's done, I'll give you 30 more seconds. All right, so again, the most basic thing you need to know to still probably hopefully pass, and you'll still have to know a little bit more than this, but if you get this down to where it's automatic, probably should be enough to pass graphing. You have to be able to pick out the slope and the Y-intercept. And it's not always going to be, again, it's not a matter of left and right, kind of like when we solved equations, we didn't always start with the left number or the right number. It depended on where the X value was, right? It's the same thing for slope. It depends on where the X value starts out. So for example, in this equation, the X is starting over here it's on the right side of the equal sign, but it's the left term of that, right? Well, way down here, or maybe not. Huh. Didn't give you any difficulties. Give me any difficult one there either. What am I thinking? Thinking this too easy. All right, I guess I'll create some. So if I gave you an equation, if I gave you an equation like this, it matches up perfectly with that right there, right? The Y is in the same spot as the Y, the equals, the M, the X is next to the M, and then the B is at the end. So this would be an easy one, hopefully. You would say, okay, well, that M is the 2, matches up perfectly. So this is the slope. Actually, write that down, what I'm writing now, so you can pick out the slope. The 2 is the slope. The value or the variable for slope is m. So you could also say m equals 2. You're going to do that a lot. So do it that way as well. And then you would say the y-intercept is the number at the end that's just a number all by itself. It's not, there's nothing else with it. So the b is 1. I'm going to do that one next. So that's the y-intercept. So that's what you should kind of have written down right now. I can't believe I didn't. I know I've got something where I just made it more difficult. I don't know.
How do you determine slope if whatever's
Whatever's in front, like directly in, whatever's the real math way to say it is, it's the coefficient of the x, which means it's being multiplied times the x. Whatever's being multiplied times the x is the slope. Exactly. So that's the way it would look in that problem. Now, if I gave you a different problem, and I said, well, what about in this? That's the way we, oh wait, I did not mean to do that. Sorry. That's that, don't write that one down. Okay. I gave it to you like that. Now things are all out of whack. This one's like, there's nothing in the same spot. The y value is not the on the left. This is actually the y value because it's the number all by itself. A lot of times it'll be that total. Like when we did word problems, we said the number that's the total a lot of times winds up being the number all by itself. So this would actually be the y. So I'd write that equation down. And now you can say that's the y value, just y, not y-intercept. That is the y value. Y value and y-intercept are totally different, and they're different from the y-axis. The y-axis is the whole line going up and down. The y-intercept is one single spot on the graph. So the y-intercept is the number all by itself. And then it could, you have to remember it's a -2. Talking too much. So that's, I'm going to abbreviate it. That's the y-intercept. Make sure you remember, what did we say about the sign in front of a number? Well, the sign in front of a number, like that. This guy. What do we say about that guy?
Oh, that's
Glued to that 2. So if we're going to say that the 2, because again, it's whatever's in front of the x, whatever's attached to the x, whatever's being multiplied times the x. If we're going to say that number 2 is the slope, we have to say -2 is the slope. That negative sign is glued to that 2. Whenever we use the 2, we use the negative. Whenever we say the number 2, we say -2. So that's why I said you got to remember that for all our lessons. Not just when you're solving for variables, but even when you're graphing, when we do anything. So write that one down. Again, make sure you clearly say that's the y-intercept, -2. Now, x is never part of the slope. You'll notice I haven't written x as part of the slope anytime. The slope is just the number 2. The slope here is just the number -2. X is being multiplied times the slope. It is not. So write that note down. That's going to be another huge mistake, and I will take points off for that eventually. Cut you some slack. X is not part of the slope. They are two separate things. This is the slope times x. They're not the same number. Slope is one number, x is another number. And typically we won't know the x. We will normally know the slope. We'll be able to figure out the slope. I'll give you some kind of practice. I'll probably add 1 or 2 in. Any questions on that? Or you practice some? I'm just going to give you ones to write down from up here since the book doesn't follow it at all. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all of that. Is anybody still copying? Can you see it now that I zoomed out? Can you zoom in? Can you need me to zoom in more? Good. Finish that. Some of these are a little tricky. I haven't gone over every possible scenario yet. So I'm going to see if you can figure some of them out. Like the second one and the third one, for example. They're a little different than anything I've shown you. Got it? All right, so getting rid of all of that, you should have that written down. So I'm going to do that. So do those, and I'm going to give you a couple more to do. Oh, I don't think I can erase that. I want you to tell me the slope and the y-intercept for all of those. The way I want you to do it is to write it like this. Slope is m, y-intercept is b. So just write m equals b equals next to each one of those, which we'll have to copy those down first. And then slope would be the m, b would be the y-intercept. And I'm going to give you two more to do over here. We'll say and there. So those two I also wrote. Could be, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing 8 problems. And for each one of them, you're going to give me m equals, m is the slope, b equals, b is the y-intercept. See how we do. I'm not really going to help right now. I want to see how much you can get done on your own. Then we'll. Boy, I got to figure out what I'm doing with these. I assumed it would be at least in the same order.
Um, for M, I don't understand where you got M.
It's the number that's attached to the x. The sign in front of a number is glued to the number. So look in front of the 2. You're talking about on the other one, not this one, right? Yeah, what's in front of the 2 on that other problem? Oh, right in front of the, directly in front of the 2. You're right. Correctly. Negative. That's why that's the thing. That's the whatever's directly in front of that number. So the sign of the number, like positive or negative, is whatever's directly in front of the number. If there's an addition sign in front of it, then it's positive. All right. So you got 100 on them? See. X is never part of slope, because remember, it's really two numbers multiplied together. So if I go back up there real quick, that m is being multiplied times that x. They're not one number, not one term. It's the slope times whatever x is. They're two separate things. The slope is only whatever's where the m is, whatever's in front of the x, whatever's being multiplied times the x. You never write, and I will be a little more lenient on this at first, but I've had kids miss every single problem because they put x with the number. Like when I said, what is the slope? They said 2x, 4x, negative 6x. I'm marked every single one of them. X is not, now, that wasn't the first quiz, it's after we've been. But yeah, that is a wrong answer. Slope is never going to include the variable x. So that's one hopefully we get down also. Oop. I'll give you another like 30 seconds when the red hand gets back to 12. Go quickly because I want you to be able to check your answers when you come back in. Straight out. All right, so red hand is to the 12. First one's pretty easy. It matches up exactly with that y equals m times x plus b. So what's the slope, Angela, for the first one? Slope is 2, right? So the way you would show your answers on a quiz, right? M equals 2, or even if you're graphing, you would still write the slope. Because a lot of times I'll make you write the slope before you even graph. So what's Ryzen? What's the y-intercept then? Yeah, that was an easy one, right? 2 and 1. It matched up exactly with the way the equation is, the slope intercept form. Charles, what's the slope and the y-intercept on this one? What is it? Negative number. Oh, didn't get 100. There goes your 100. Yeah. Yeah, so if you don't, so here's your next lesson. If you don't remember this, if you ever see a variable in front of that variable, technically there's a 1. Because how many x's do I see right there? There's an x, right? I see it. Can't be 0 x's. I see an x right there. Can't be a 0. The reason we don't show it is because what does that really mean? A number in front of a variable means what, math? So what's 1 times x? No, not nothing. Anything times 1 is just that same number. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times -7 is -7. So if I'm getting the same number when I multiply that 1 times the x, I don't really need to show the 1. Like, that's why we don't show it. Technically, there's a 1 in front of that. We can't forget about the negative, though. So in that case, the slope is -1. Y-intercept is pretty easy. That's just the number on the end. Kind of color coordinated everything for you. So, who's next? Sanosh, you want to give me an answer for the next one? What is the slope and the y? This one's a tough one, actually. Part of it. What's the slope and the y-intercept? Idea? You know? Slope and y-intercept. One of them's easy. It's a color coordinated. It's a slope. It is. It's 3. What's the y-intercept? I'll come back to it. Yes? Here. 1? What we said? Not 1, because if we had a 1 there, that would change the value of 3x. 3x needs to still be 3x. So if we added 1 to it, like if, for example, if you add 1 to anything, it's going to be a little bit bigger number, right? So we can't just randomly add a number to that. We still have to have a value of 3x. What number could we add to 3x that will still be 3x? I'll let you guess again. Okay, Charles. Yeah, I could think about adding 0 to that, right? Because I do want to have a number there. But if I add 0 to 3x, it doesn't change the value of 3x. 3x is still 3x. So you have to think of there being a 0 on the end. So anytime you don't have, like, basically just a number, like we have the x term, but we don't have a one that's just a number, it's 0. So the y-intercept is 0, slope is 3. So just remember that's one of the special situations you're going to see where there's only an x term, there's not anything else. So the b value, the y-intercept is 0. Next one's not too bad. Keyshawn, wake up. Your turn. You're up, bud. What's the slope and the y? You got an easy one, relatively easy. What's the slope and y-intercept for this one? Color coordinated, really. It's the slope first. See, or your eyes blurry? Well, it's not 1. What's the whole thing in front of that x? We're on this one. So what's in red? 1/2. 1/2 is the slope. Again, whatever is in front of the x, attached to the x, being multiplied times the x, whatever you got to do to remember that, you've got to be able to pick out the slope. or later tell me what the slope is if I give you a graph first. The only real reason I mean, not the only reason, but another reason I put this one in there, what is 1/2 as a decimal? It's 0.5, right? A lot of times it's going to be easier to work with a decimal instead of the fraction. So if you have the decimal, I'm sorry, if you have a fraction in, if you have a fraction in the problem, there's nothing that will prevent you. If you guys have a fraction in the problem, and again, for graphing, fractions actually are easier sometimes, but if you want to change it to a decimal, you can. How do you convert a fraction to a decimal? I want you to make this note because this will come in handy on other lessons also. Convert a fraction, so write this down. How you convert a fraction to a decimal. There, write that down, how you convert a fraction to a decimal. Does anybody remember? Buddy? You take the top number, and the line means divide. That line in between the numbers means divide. So it's the top number divided by the bottom number. That's why you don't ever see a division sign in algebra, really, because they write it as a fraction. They just put one thing over another thing because the line in between them means divide. So converting, if you say 1 divided by 2 in a calculator, it will give you 0.5. I'm gonna finish or do the next one. That one's super easy. -5/4 is the slope. Make sure you remember the negative number or the negative sign in front of a number. Oh, we didn't finish this one. Oh, Keyshawn was up. What was the y-intercept on this one here? You got the slope. What's the y-intercept? Negative. Don't forget the negative sign. I mean, it's in blue, so hopefully we remember there. But when it's not color coordinated, that's going to be one of the biggest mistakes is people are going to forget negative signs in either the slope or the y-intercept. Whatever's in front of the number is glued to that number, just like when we solve. Same concept. This one's a little tricky, David. What's the slope and y-intercept down here, do you think? What's the slope and y-intercept down there? What's the y-intercept? The number all by itself is the y-intercept. Doesn't matter whether it's on the left or right, wherever it is, the number, well, it's got to be on the same side with the x, but the number all by itself on the same side with the x. So what's about the slope? You just say about when you see a variable with no number in front of it. It's actually still up on the board. Okay. If there is no number in front of it, you've got to remember that there's a 1 there. So the slope is a 1. Who are we on? Sophia. Is probably out like a light. Are you awake, Sophia? Are you awake? What do you have for slope and y-intercept in the next one? Top one, 14 equals 6 plus 3x. It's the slope. Did you say it? 3, whatever's in front of the x. Again, we're not looking at the left term, the 6. Whatever's in front of the x, whatever's being multiplied times the x. So what does that make the y-intercept? 6. It's got to be so again, 14 is nothing. 14, well, it's the y, it's the value of y. It's this one here. So the y-intercept has to be on the same side as where x is, but it's the one that's all by itself on the side. The y-intercept is where we always start first when we solve. Like that's really what we've been using when we solve is the y-intercept. The number that's all by, or the number farthest away from the x, you could say, is also the y-intercept. And the last one's a little tricky. Who am I gonna go with? I guess oh, Jocelyn, do you think you know this one? This one's a tricky one. Any idea what the slope and y-intercept are on that one? Well, there's not a negative one. Again, it's the sign in front of the number is the sign. In front of the number is positive. One is one with the x, is one like with the x? Is two with the x? Is the toughest. What's that? I know. What do we say when there's nothing there? No, not a zero. A one, right? So there's really a one here. So now, do you know what the slope is in? Oh, two, we don't care about the two. The two would be actually the y value. It's all by itself, right on the other side. So that would actually be the value of y, which we're not really worried about. Who wants to help out? What do you think? I'm pretty sure she said negative. Did you say negative one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the slope is -1. Must have missed it. The b value is just positive. So again, you've got to be able to pick out slope and y-intercept. You can't do that. You can't graph. You can't do the reverse, which is taking a graph and then putting that in the slope intercept form. I don't know that this is what we'll do next week. Now that I've seen what goes in a totally different, oh boy, some of the stuff they do in the book already, we didn't even get to last year. We didn't want it. I got to figure out if I'm going to take that on or not. It's relatively complex, some of what they do. So I'm going to talk to the other 1A teachers and find out what order they're going in. Yeah, well, they did literal, I think they did literal equations because I went in, I think Miss Bailey was on literal equations, I believe, or Miss Hauser, one of them. But we are normally a couple days ahead of them, so I'll ask, they may not have even seen that next lesson is dealing with, it's not even linear functions, they're already getting into curved line, like functions that are curved lines, which we didn't do part of it at all. We did one lesson right at the end of the year on it. Tell you what, since I'm not sure what direction we're gonna go. This was a boring lesson. You guys did a pretty good job of hanging in there, so you can have the last, whatever it is, 8 minutes or whatever. You phone stuff. You move around if you want to move around. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do. Interesting. That's crazy. Yeah, some of the stuff in those pages you guys ripped out, we never even got to. Either. Yes, they do graphing. Wow.
Pieces. That's gonna make sure. Your race, that's your direction, so that's how you see that. For you. Well, where is the race one? That's nationality on that. That means it's better material.